Yo, 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 what is up, YouTube? BK Brad Kellner. Today is Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. My first video of the new year. So happy new year to each and every one of you out there. Hope y'all are staying safe. Hope y'all are staying healthy. Crazy times out there, obviously, but hope every single one of you is doing well and appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. So as you can tell by the title, we're talking Texas basketball in today's video. The Longhorns 2-0 in Big 12 conference play. They opened up the conference slate on January 1st, actually New Year's morning, against West Virginia in Austin. The Longhorns won that game 74-59. And then last night, once again recording this on Wednesday, so last night, Tuesday, the Longhorns in the Octagon of Doom took down Kansas State 70-57. So 2 wins, 2 double-digit wins, one of those wins coming on the road. A pretty solid start for Texas basketball, and we've talked about it on this channel, and I think every Texas basketball fan has talked about it a lot this season. The Big 12 is deep. The Big 12 is loaded, and there are no easy wins in this conference, and Texas didn't have that tough of a non-conference slate. I know they played at Gonzaga. I know they played at Seton Hall. Two tough games, no doubt about that. Outside of that, not a lot of quality competition the Longhorns have gone up against so far this season. Their best win going into Big 12 play was that win against Stanford at a neutral site right before the turn of the year. And I don't know if Stanford's a tournament team, right? At best, I think they're a bubble team in the Pac-12 this year, and I might be being too nice to the Cardinal there. So in terms of like tournament teams or even borderline tournament teams, the Longhorns didn't play a whole lot in the non-con slate, and the only two, I think, guaranteed tournament teams that they played, well, they lost to in the non-con. So we knew the competition would get a lot tougher in Big 12 play, and once again, this league, it's always deep, it's always loaded, but it's even better this year than it's been in years past. You know, you look at the teams that were awful last year, Iowa State, who was picked to finish dead last in the league this year. Well, they didn't lose their first game of the season until a game against Baylor, the number one team in the country, this past weekend. So Iowa State clearly much improved under TJ Otzelberger, their new head coach. Kansas State is a better team this year than what they were last year. I think TCU is a better team than what they were last year. And you still have a ton of talent at the top. Baylor looks to be legit again. They haven't lost. They're the number one team in the country, and rightfully so. Kansas is really good. Borderline top 5 team. Texas Tech is ranked. I still think West Virginia is pretty damn good. Oklahoma is going to be good as well. Oklahoma State still has some talent. So, yeah, point is, this league is really good. No off days, no easy games in this conference. And Texas is 2-0 with 2 double-digit wins. Now, I will say this. The schedule makers did the Longhorns a solid. And before we dive into these first 2 games and kind of give my observations, I want to talk about the schedule here for a second. The schedule makers did Texas a solid. I don't think this was intentional. I just think this is how things went this year. Home against West Virginia and at Kansas State is about as easy as a start as you could have asked for if you're a Texas fan, right? Like, West Virginia's good. They're not great. This is not a deep tournament run potential Bob Huggins West Virginia team. They're solid. I mean, the Texas loss for them was just their second loss of the season. They beat UConn in the non-con slate. So, like, they're a good team. They're probably going to make the NCAA tournament. But once again, this league is so deep. It's so loaded. There are so many ridiculously good teams in the Big 12. Like, okay, getting West Virginia at home, you could do a lot worse for a conference opener, right? You could have to deal with Kansas or Baylor or a road trip to Lubbock. Hell, a road trip to Morgantown. Like, that would have been a pretty tough way to start your conference play. But getting West Virginia at home and then at K-State against a very short-handed K-State team, thanks to COVID. They were without their coach last night. I think they only had 8 available players. Now, they did have 4 of their 5 starters, so it's not like all of their best players were out, but very short bench. They didn't have Bruce on the sideline, which some people might argue that's a good thing for K-State, but regardless, they didn't have their head coach. And, oh, yeah, winter break's still going on. So, like, there weren't a ton of students there, and also K-State football was playing last night in the Texas Bowl. I actually went to that game. And so a lot of the K-State fans, who I assume normally go to basketball games up in Manhattan, they were in Houston watching their football team play. Or even if they didn't come to Houston, they were at home watching their football team play. A bigger game than Texas coming to town in college basketball early in conference play. So that helped. I mean, at K-State, sometimes it's a tough place to win. The Octagon of Doom is what they call Bramlage Coliseum. Not always an easy place to pick up a dub, but about as easy as you could have asked for the Longhorns last night. So once again, a relatively easy start to conference play, all things considered. And man, I mean, the only, maybe you could have asked for a TCU game instead of West Virginia. Like that would have been the ultimate easy start for UT in Big 12 play this year. But like Texas conference play is very backloaded for this team. And maybe that's a good thing, honestly. Now it's going to make the month of February incredibly tough. But I mean, coming up next for the Longhorns at Oklahoma State, OSU's not as good this year. Then you get Oklahoma at home, at Iowa State, home K-State, home Oklahoma State, at TCU. Like the next 6 games at Iowa State's going to be really tough. And I'm not even sure Texas is going to go 5-1 in that stretch. But like you don't have to worry about Baylor or Kansas or Texas Tech, who are probably the 3 other top teams in this conference besides Texas, until after the Big 12 SEC Challenge, which is at the end of the month. So, like, you don't have to worry about the other predicted best teams in this league for a while. And we've talked about it. Like, the biggest question with this Texas team is chemistry. Like, how long will it take for them to gel? How long will it take for guys to get comfortable with one another and find their roles? Well, the non-conference slate, Texas was getting there, didn't always see what we wanted to see before the turn of the year. We know Big 12 play is tough, but it's nice that you kind of get some easier conference games early on to really hopefully finish and finalize that process of building that chemistry and making sure guys are comfortable in their roles. So the schedule makers helping Texas out a little bit. I just think it's luck of the draw. I think it happens from time to time where it works out this way. And look, down the stretch, Texas has some really, really tough games. So it's nice now. It's going to not be so nice in February. But man, if you're Texas and you want to compete for the Big 12 regular season title this year, you have to take advantage of this weaker start to conference play. You have to make some hay in the month of January because you're going to have no chance if you're out of things going into February because obviously the schedule gets a whole hell of a lot tougher. So if you want to be in that conversation for conference champion, make some things happen this month. If you want to avoid all bubble conversations, which I am praying we don't have to have those anymore. We've had those way too often over the last 6 years, hell, over the last 7 or 8 years, dating back to the end of the Rick Barnes era. I don't want to have those conversations anymore. I'm sure y'all don't want to have those conversations anymore. If you want to avoid those, then take care of business in the month of January. Pick up some wins against quality competition, but not the qualityest. That's not a word. Not the best teams of in the Big 12. So there you go. So what did I notice from the first 2 games? And by the way, please like this video if you haven't yet. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. I'll still be your friend even if you don't. But subscribe to this channel. Tap the notification bell so you're always informed whenever I release new content. We talk all things Texas sports on this channel. So appreciate the love, guys. Thank you for taking the time to do that. And comment below with your thoughts, your observations, your comments, your questions, Texas basketball, Texas football, whatever's on y'all's mind. Would love to hear from you guys. One thing that I've noticed and one thing that I've really liked from Texas through 2 games of conference play, Marcus Carr is a different player. Marcus Carr has been much more aggressive since Big 12 play started. The leading scorer for Texas in both of these games, he's been way more aggressive. We're seeing more Minnesota Marcus Carr than what we saw in the non-con slate in the first half of this season. Marcus Carr at Minnesota had to be the man. Like he was far and away the best player on the Gophers for the few years that he was up there. And at times that was a good thing. At times that was a bad thing. Like he was the man. He was relied upon to take all the big shots. And sometimes that was a detriment because he would just hog the ball and jack up bad shots at the end of shot clocks or at the end of games. But Minnesota kind of needed that. And he had to be the guy because they just didn't have that much talent around him. So I was curious, and this goes back to before the season. I was talking about this on this channel. I was curious what type of role Marcus Carr would have on this team because he didn't have to be the man, right? Texas has a bunch of talented players. So Marcus Carr could rely on his teammates a little bit and not have to take a bunch of crazy shots late in shot clocks or take every shot in clutch game situations. And for a while, Marcus Carr was almost being like 2-team first. Feels kind of weird to say, but he was just he was trying too hard, in my opinion, to get his teammates involved instead of doing what he does best, which is scoring. Like he's a score-first player. So while I wanted Marcus Carr to be a little less aggressive than what he was at Minnesota, I still wanted him to be aggressive. And unfortunately, we weren't seeing that. I don't know if it was just he wasn't comfortable. He was trying to figure out this offense, trying to figure out the system a little bit, trying to find his role. But lately, these last 2 games, these first 2 games in Big 12 play, Marcus Carr has been way more aggressive. 20 points in the West Virginia game. He led Texas in that one. And then last night, in 37 minutes, that's another key thing I'm going to get to here in a second. 19, 7, and 5 for Marcus Carr. So a little bit of everything for the Longhorns in that road win, and they needed it because Texas was down 6 at halftime last night in Manhattan. And Marcus Carr and Timmy Allen, those guys helped lead the second half surge. The Longhorns outscoring the Purple Cats 41-22 in those final 20 minutes. It was looking like it could have been an upset early, and it would have been a bad loss for Texas. But they found a way, thanks to Marcus Carr, thanks to everybody, but Marcus Carr kind of led the charge in the final 20 minutes. Early on, Marcus Carr didn't play a lot of minutes, and he was coming off the bench at times early this season. So to see him play 37, like I've said it all year long, Texas will go as far as Marcus Carr takes. He's the most important player on this team. Relatively easy to say for a point guard, but I think he's the best scorer on this team. Timmy Allen's right there as well. That guy's been impressive. We'll get to him in a second. But Marcus Carr is going to dictate how far Texas goes, whether or not Texas can win a Big 12 and whether or not Texas makes a deep run come tournament time. And how about the rumors? I didn't do a video about these random unfacilitated rumors regarding Marcus Carr. I don't even know the guy who tweeted him out. It was some Texas Tech fan, which probably tells you everything you need to know. And this is not like I'm trying to take a shot at the guy by not mentioning his name. The guy was irrelevant. It was just a random Texas Tech fan who was insinuating that Marcus Carr was going to transfer. And maybe it wasn't just Marcus Carr, like a bunch of other UT players were about to hit the portal after the Jalen Tyson news dropped. I don't know if that inspired Marcus Carr. I don't know if it's the start of conference play. I don't know if it's just, hey, he feels more comfortable now. Whatever it is, I'm glad it happened because Marcus Carr has been a different beast since 2022 began, and Texas is going to need that the rest of the way. I love the saltiness from Texas Tech fans, man. It is amazing. They are stalking their ex-girlfriend. Hey, she didn't want you anymore, guys. And you have a new girlfriend. Take care of your girlfriend. Don't worry about ours as much, all right? Don't worry about ours. Take care of yours. Amazing. We're going to get this from Tech fans for a long, long time, I think. But love the aggressiveness from Marcus Carr. Hope that continues. Timmy Allen's the leading scorer for this team. He's been awesome. The transfer from Utah, all Pac-12 player last year, so my expectations were pretty high. And I was listening to some of this game on the radio last night as I was driving to the Texas Bowl. And Eddie O, the great Eddie O, who does color commentary alongside Craig Way, the great Craig Way, great friend of mine, Craig Way, on the radio call. Eddie O said that Timmy Allen, for a guy his size, he scores near the basket better than just about anybody he's seen. That's absolutely right. I mean, Timmy Allen's only 6'6", 6'7", might be rounding up a little bit there. And his ability and his feel on the low block is just amazing. And amongst the trees, he can find ways to get creative and get buckets. Absolutely love it. Like Timmy Allen, kind of an old school game, especially for a guy his size, right? He doesn't live and die by the three like so many wings in today's basketball. That guy has no problem getting dirty amongst the bigs down low. And once again, he can get creative. He's got an arsenal of moves to help him get buckets. Sometimes it looks like he's playing in slow motion, but it works, man. It absolutely works. So he's been great. He's the leading scorer on this team. And he averages 12 points a game. Like, you don't need 20, 25 from him every night. He can get you 12, 15. He can go for 20, 25 if you need him. But the beauty of this Texas team is they've got so much depth, so much versatility. And they've got 7 guys right now averaging more than 7 points per game. That's what makes this team good. And that's what's going to make this team relevant as the year progresses. Andrew Jones, COVID, didn't play last night. Rough news. Hopefully he's back relatively soon. Hopefully he's okay. But Texas on the road, finding a nice win. And the Longhorns are up to number 13 in the country. Of course, the rankings came out before the win yesterday. They get the win in Manhattan. And this weekend, Texas will be in Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State good. They can't make the tournament this year because of some BS NCAA punishment. But they're not as good as last year, right? I mean, they just don't have Cade Cunningham, who was the number 1 pick in the draft. So not as good. This is one of the more winnable road games that Texas has in this league. It's not going to be easy. Oklahoma State's good. They've got some talent. Avery Anderson's a stud. Isaac Likely's still there. There are some good players on that squad. Caleb Boone is still there. Bryce Thompson, the transfer from Kansas. Bryce Williams. Not going to be an easy win, but once again, one of the more winnable games, especially on the road for the Longhorns this year. If you want to win this conference or even be in the discussion to win this conference, you've got to win a game like this. Kansas, a team in the discussion to win this conference, they went to Stillwater and won last night. So, and they won by double digits. Hopefully, Texas. I don't care how it looks. I just want to win in Stillwater. But once again, one of the more winnable games the Longhorns have, and then Oklahoma comes to town midweek next week. So I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. Texas 2-0 in conference play. Great start to conference play. A couple of double-digit wins. Man, that run that they went on late in the first half against West Virginia was impressive. The game was tied at 14, and then Texas closed the half on a 25-6 run to take control. They never looked back. And then the K-State game last night, once again, down 6 at halftime. They found a way in the second half, outscoring the Purple Cats by 19 to get the win. So good start for UT, the men's basketball team in conference play. Women's team up to number 9 in the polls, too. I'll give them some love. I know they're taking on Texas Tech at the Irwin Center tonight. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for today's video. Just a quick basketball update. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, please like this video if you haven't yet. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. And I appreciate the continued love. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Last Stand Hats. LastStandHats.com. You've seen the discount code scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Use BK10 at checkout. You'll get 10% off your purchase of any Last Stand hats. Quick plug for my radio show, The Wheelhouse, ESPN 97.5 in Houston, every weekday from 3 to 7 p.m. You can listen online at ESPN975.com. I'm talking too much. This video is lasting too long. We're done here. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, y'all stay safe, y'all stay healthy, and hook 'em.